tenses, and we are trying to revisit the basics. So this is Introduction to Learning Tenses and Aspects. Now, in this segment of our lesson, we'll be discovering some of our guidelines today, which is tenses versus aspect, unfolding the aspects of time and determining the most common tenses and aspects. All right, so let's review a little bit. What is the difference between tenses and aspects of verbs? Now, tense and aspects are often labeled as the same thing. It's not uncommon to see the present progressive referred to as the present progressive tense, or will have plus past participle referred to as the future perfect tense. So in this case, there are two aspects in English, the progressive aspect and of course the perfect aspect. These are the two major aspects in English. Now, if we talk about the progressive aspect in form with the auxiliary be and the addition of ing to the main verb, it usually described as event which is taking place during limited time. We also often use it when we're more concerned with the action rather than the time frame or result. The perfect aspect links two time frame together. So in some way, they by showing that an event which started in the past is ongoing, or by showing a future result of a present action. While tense is a verb form that indicates a particular point in time or period of time. And according to the English study by Lewis, this is from 1986, he described a verb, which is the tense, morphological change in the base form of the verb. So a verb form which is made with an auxiliary is not in this technical meaning a tense. So according to English grammar, this is 2017, was defined that tenses is again a period of time. So here by Lawless 2020, he coordinate tense and aspect. So tense refer to time period and aspect refer to the duration of the event of a particular time period. All right. So next, let's have a little trivia. Now, according to our trivia, there are two tenses only in English. We have the present and then the past. So unlike any other languages, English does not have a future tense. This is a misconception because in order for us to talk about the future, it requires a modal verb will or a present progressive form. All right, next. So let me introduce to you the four main aspects of the verb. So we have the simple, which is a repeated action or single action or a permanent state, while a perfect aspect is discussed as a complete action, and progressive, of course, by the word itself, is a continuous event. Lastly, the combination between a perfect and a progressive aspect. This refers to the completed portion. So just a portion of a specific continuous action. Let's have some examples. So for a permanent state, for example, David lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. Repeated or habitual action, he runs every morning. Single action, it's a single time point reference in our time continuum in the past. So I'm going to use past here. He graduated from the University of North Carolina. There you go. So let's move on with the perfect aspect. Again, this is formed by adding have, then we combine it with a past tense verb. So in this case, let's have an example. My family had left before flooding reached our home. She has visited their mountain home. Next, progressive. Again, progressive formed by an auxiliary plus the ing. Dr. Jones was lecturing about grammar. Jane is reading a novel. And a combination, and in this case, we're going to have the be. The news crew had been working for more than 12 hours to provide full coverage of the event. Again, this is a portion. Remember our definition, a single portion of a continuous action in the past. And remember, this is a completed action already in a specific time continuum. And lastly, our example, I will have been sleeping for many hours by then. Right. So, a closer examination of what tense really refer to can provide us with a deeper understanding of how tense works in English. So rather than think in terms of the present and the past, it can be useful if we think of it as distance. So in this case, I'm going to show you this diagram, which is remote and close. Let's examine. So when I was a boy, I walked to school. Time. I go to work by bus. I wish you were more polite. You're not very polite. Could you possibly open the window, please? Can you open the window, please? Now, in this term, we're going to examine it in terms of having three key factor. The key factor here is the time, reality, and a register. So in the diagram, we see that there are three ways in which distance affects our choice of tense. So let me explain. When time, so close as in my life now, and remote as in my life in the past. Reality, close to reality, or remote, which is unreal. While the register, the closer someone is to me socially, the more present tense I use. So there's no exception to this rule. It's important to remember that so much of our choice of tense and aspect depends not only on how we view the events, but also how we want the events to be viewed. Now, for example, if you're writing a news article and if you see news articles, there will be a headline. And let's take an example like earthquake kills 200. Now, that one is a present tense, even though the event occurred the day before. However, if a past tense were used, the event would seem less immediate and therefore less newsworthy. Another common use of a present simple tense is to describe past events in the historic present. So we can also use that of present tense, and the story becomes more formal or more informal and personal, therefore brings the speaker and the listener closer. Now, the question is, why is the distinction between tense and aspect important? Raising your learners' awareness of this remote, close framework can relate or can help them when they start to meet hypothetical language. For example, the idea of regret. Let's have an example of a sentence. I wish I hadn't been so lazy is expressed using the past perfect. So, for example, as it contains two elements of remoteness, past tense and unreality, therefore the speaker was lazy. So, conversely, the regret, if I wish I wasn't so lazy, is expressed using the past simple as it contains only one element of remoteness, unreality, which means the speaker is lazy, but is close in terms of time. The speaker is referring to now. Similarly, an awareness of the common uses of aspect across the different tenses can help learners have a more accurate understanding of what's going on when we use them. An understanding that our choices aren't only affected by how we view events, but by how we want them to be viewed, can help learners gain a fuller critical understanding of the language they hear.